Welcome to Carole Tuesday Live, the Shinichiro Watanabe show that's more about music and less about people, or more about people and less about music, depending on what episode you're watching. This week we're looking at episode 12, where we're probably finally going to see the finale of the Mars Brightest show that we've always been waiting for, and the showdown between Angela and our titular duo. And we don't know what's going to happen after that. The show's supposed to be a 2-course show, so we're supposed to have 24 episodes. But I don't really know where the show's going from here. We haven't really been told. So consider this kind of like a mid-season finale. So without further ado, let's get started. So if you remember where we left off last episode, we were at the lowest point before the Act 3 redemption. So Tuesday and Carole had a little fight. Carole expressed how she didn't like how Tuesday was always like taking for granted all the things that Carole didn't have when she was growing up. They had a little disagreement about what to do, and then Tuesday's family comes to pick her up, right? So she's gone. Carole's there by herself. And we're at the lowest point possible before they have to perform for the final, which they already had trouble showing up for the semifinal because of Sibel's little gift. So they don't really know what they're going to go from here. So let's see what happens. So when her brother came to see her at the live, that was at like episode 5 or 6 or something. We're getting the payoff for that, the emotional setup and payoff for that way out here in episode 12. I'm kind of glad this episode is kind of taking a step back from the whole musical performance thing and allowing us to have a retrospective of their relationship and why they even started this in the first place. I think it's a little bit late though, because these characters have been talking to each other since episode 1, and we've never really had those or we have had a few of those moments where Carole and Tuesday kind of reflect on their relationship, where they for example, they just pause and look at what they're doing and be like, oh, I'm so glad I'm here doing this, or something like that. We've had a few of those in between. But like I've said before, I really feel like they kind of just expected you to be endeared to the characters based on that the series is named after them and that the character design is really good. And that's never really completely enough to endear me to a few characters like this. That's why I've been saying again and again that Angela is my favorite character in the show. And even just her driving by in that cab when Carole was alone and Tuesday wasn't there, I felt like she had something to say about that. It would have been nice if she'd offered to help, seeing as how basically at this point she's fully redeemed as a character now. And we know all the struggle that she had to go through, and we don't really see her as an antagonist anymore. That being said, this heart-to-heart with Tuesday and her brother is still good to have at the end of the day, because he did show up and he did not bring her back. He hasn't really been a character at all in the show, though, so him having this long monologue about how he didn't see her as a character, or didn't see her as who she really was, he just saw her as what other people wanted her to be. And now he sees who she really is with this interest in music and running away to pursue it. It's not something that he really thought that she could do, which would be nice if we knew more about him, but we really don't. The only thing we know about him is that he's Tuesday's brother and he was sent to bring her back. For example, if he had stayed in Alba City and tried to keep a more meaningful relationship or more watchful eye on them, be hey, I know you're pursuing music, but my mom told me to come and watch you, so I'm just gonna watch you. Try to help them out or anything like that. He could have been part of their cast of characters, you know. He could have even helped them avoid the other people that her mom sent to recruit them. And then in episode 11, when they actually do find her, despite his best efforts, that will be a character development moment. That'll be the completion of his arc. Is he also betrayed his mother by not bringing her back. But of course, we don't get anything like that. They do on purpose keep the cast of characters in the show very thin. We have Gus, we have Roddy, we have Carole and Tuesday, we have Angela. That's basically it. The AI mastermind guy, we don't really know that much about, other than that he has connections in places. And there are 12 episodes still left to explore all these characters. Basically, the only ones being Angela's guardian and the AI guy, who we really don't know that much about yet. The relationship between Tuesday and her mom also, I feel like, is going to be more explored this episode or next episode, because it basically has to be if she wants to be released from here. The whole runaway thing is kind of doesn't make sense to me because no one knows that Tuesday ran away from her mom being a politician. They just know that she's on the show. So if her mom just be like, "Oh yeah, my daughter's on the show," the only reason that would be a bad thing is that it detracts from her name by having her, her family being associated with something other than politics. You can kind of see this in real life when politicians run. Their children don't really do anything weird. They just kind of show up to support them at the rallies and stuff. They don't really try to do stuff of their own at that time because they're trying to focus all the public attention onto one particular member of the family. And just by the nature of how press works, if you have multiple members of the family, they're going to get questions about the main member of the family to the other people too, even if they're doing stuff that's not related, if it's just in the public eye. So I get why they had to go get her back, but I felt like there should have been more like back and forth with that, like, oh, they almost found me this episode, or like something like a close call where the guards like run right past them and they like run and they hide, and like a classic kind of Shinichiro Watanabe like chase scene, something like that. That would have been nice. But when it does finally happen, it feels like it comes out of nowhere just because we haven't really thought about it since her brother came to see her at the live like 8 episodes ago. It just feels like the whole payoff was not well set up at all, which is something that the show does quite a lot. Is either the setup is too hyped up, like with the Sibel gift thing that we all figured out immediately that it was Sibel, and they spent the better part of an episode trying to make it look like a mystery. And then some payoffs have no setups, and some setups have no payoffs. I wonder why this show is 2 cours at all at this point. Like, I feel like the message of the show has already been conveyed in 1 cour, and we don't really have anything left to talk about the characters. Maybe this is the last episode and I just don't know about it, but on anime list and any chart and everything else, it does say the show is 2 cours. Maybe it's just confused because it does say sometimes the wrong number of episodes or whatever. So we don't know if this is the last episode or second to last episode. Okay, I'll stop yammering for now. Let's just keep watching the episode. They're using a different music cue for this episode of Mars Brightest, which is like way better than all the music cues that they've used before, and generally the animation seems to be tighter and like more flowing and less static shots this episode. So clearly this is some kind of finale. Okay, so we know what they've been saving the budget for is this episode. So I'm expecting the music scenes in this episode to just blow my mind away. Kind of like how they did in episode 1 and 2 when I was just raving about them. Let's keep watching. So the first thing that immediately came to mind as soon as I saw that was the ice skating cuts from Yuri on Ice, which the community kind of lost their minds over the saga in that show, which just makes me wonder why this show doesn't take off more in the anime community, because Yuri on Ice and this kind of have like a similar type of aesthetic, but Yuri on Ice I felt dealt with their problems the way that they dealt with it. This isn't really the same show at all. I'm not insinuating that they are. I'm just saying that the performance-based kind of like approach to things, Yuri on Ice and this have some similarities. But clearly this show has been spent, saving its budget for the final episodes. The musical performances from the other participants on the show, which we had to watch and were almost just like a minute and a half or 2 minutes long each, definitely did not get as much polish and treatment as this particular song did. And some of the sakuga in this performance was really good, which is what I wanted to see from the show as a whole. That's kind of what we were promised in the first couple of episodes when we first started watching this, was we're going to have really good animation cuts during the performances, which we haven't really had for a long time. And really you can tell more of it when Carole Tuesday performed because of the piano and the guitar and everything else. The hands were pretty cool. Other than that, my personal favorite Angela song is still I Can Move Mountains from way back in the day, like episode 9 or whatever. Angela's come full circle as a character. She started off being like this spoiled brat person who just was going into music because her guardian thought it would be a good way for her to increase her publicity, and now she's become like a person who actually wants to sing and wants to sing the songs that even she can't sing for her guardian only. She's singing for herself now. So we're taking a different route completely, but we reached the same destination where she wants to sing for herself, which is really what Carole Tuesday are all about. So what's the difference between Angela now and Carole Tuesday now? Because if you look at who they were when the show started, which were two people who wanted to start a band and make original music because they just wanted to make music, are they not the same people now? Because how much have they changed really since the show started? It's 12 episodes in, and they really haven't changed all that much. We haven't had any arguments between them. They haven't wanted to do two different things, and then both argued about what they eventually end up doing and compromised or something like that to form some kind of character development. We haven't really had anything like that. They kind of just went from event to event, all agreeing every time. Which makes me wonder if this show is really trying to set up Angela as the protagonist. It's the theory that I've been pitching for the last couple of reactions, is that Angela's the secret protagonist of this show, and it's really not about. The show's not really trying to say that original non-AI made music is the best. It's really saying that music that comes from your heart is the best, and it doesn't matter how it comes from your heart, whether you naturally notice that it's in your heart and you make the music, or an AI notices that it's in your subconscious and pulls it out of you, kind of without your knowledge. Either way, if what's in your heart comes out, it's a good thing at the end of the day. That seems to be what the show is trying to say, and we'll know that for sure if Angela ends up winning the contest, because if Angela ends up winning, that means there really is no difference between Carole Tuesday and Angela. But we know Angela's not going to win. She's just underappreciated and always has been. Okay, that being said, returning to the episode. Okay, so it's kind of a cop-out at the end of the show. Okay. So they made this big deal about how there's a rule that you can't, just show up just before your performance. You have to be there from the beginning of the program. Okay, that makes sense. Then they make a big deal about how they're making an exception, and then they say the winner is Angela, but it's a meaningless victory because the whole point was that the winner gets to make a debut as an artist. They'll just say both of you get to make a debut. Well, I do like that kind of tie ending. It came off in the episode a little bit played out because they didn't really make a big deal about actually not letting them perform or whatever. They just let them perform immediately. And if you look at it from the kind of satire parody approach that the show used to take with this talent show type genre type show, which they were trying to do before with the people who have weird sob stories and who just sing badly, who show up and they mock them on the show. If you think back to the very first episode, which we saw on the Mars Brightest TV program when they were auditioning, this seems just like a strange kind of over dramatization for the sake of the anime, but also the talent show in world would have loved this kind of thing to happen, because it's the type of thing that boosts their ratings. Is if the people just show up at the last minute and perform, and then the crowd just keeps cheering and cheering, and so they make an exception and they both get to win. And it seems like the Catherine lady, who's the head judge, just kind of made a on the spot decision that they both get to debut, even though you would think it would require resources to have them both debut that maybe the show doesn't have, or they have a contract with the label that only one person can debut. Now they have to get two people, so they would have to call somebody. I would have just liked a little bit more fuss to be made about it, so the payoff would have been better. And that's fundamentally the problem for me with this show, is that the payoffs just are either too rushed and they feel kind of pandery, or there are setups and there are no payoffs. Gus just has had no character development in the past 6 episodes since he first talked to that lady at the bar who we found out was his ex-wife or whatever, and Roddy just has done nothing. It seems to me the show is rushing to try to get somewhere, and it, along the way, is just forgetting what it started off being, which is this nice character development show about two people wanting to make music. And we've been artificially told that this Mars Brightest thing isn't the way that they're going to do it, the way that they're going to be successful, when actually what we know in in-world people, real-world people, which this show has been trying to portray. I've been talking this whole time, the past 11 reactions, about how things that happen in the show also happen in real life, and by setting it in a future setting, they're trying to avoid the comparison, but they're also making the comparison, and they're saying things about how musicians have to operate in real life that actually I know for a fact are the way that they are in the real world. So for them to base their whole success off of making a debut off a talent show, it seems to me is a little bit contrived, because the show has been so kind of cutting edge with music videos not being the way to go, or like an online presence is not the way to go, and like lives being just really bad the first time around, or any of these like kind of accurate musical statements you can make about how music works in the world right now, and then to have their success based off of a talent show, which we know doesn't really work out. As I've already said, there have been like 20 whatever seasons of American Idol. How many people do you know that won it? Probably like 3. It just seems a little like, oh, we need an ending. This is probably an ending that we could do. Let's have a 5-episode talent show arc, which ends with them winning. At least they didn't win outright, but like the crowd cheering. The crowd just cheered so loud that they had to announce them as the victor, or otherwise the crowd wouldn't quiet down or something like that, like a kind of Rocky Balboa type ending. At least we didn't get that. We do acknowledge that Angela is worthy of praise and consideration, so I'm happy for that at least. Let's watch the ending and then we'll talk about it more. So that's the end of the episode. And the way that they played through the credits without playing the ED kind of makes us feel like an ending, but it's not really an ending because we're only halfway through the show. It makes me wonder if they're going to take a week break before the next episode comes out to kind of just give a little bit of space for this ending to breathe a little bit. In the end, Angela didn't even get to say anything. They didn't get to make any kind of victory speech. She's reconciled with the fact that her mom is the way that she is. We didn't get to hear anything like that. Oh, like, thank you, Mom, for getting me to this point. They kind of just rushed to the ending, maybe because the episode was over. We already talked about how this show kind of rushes a little bit, and I wish it would dwell more on the moments that it needs to, and kind of skip over the moments that it doesn't need to, like all these random musical performances we don't really need, for characters we don't care about at all. The difference between these characters and the characters on Yuri on Ice, where they showed a bunch of the characters performing, like the side cast of characters performing, is we were already like very endeared to those characters, and we wanted to see them perform because it kind of showed their personality. But the generic music in the show, which they kind of had to do because I guess the budget wasn't there to do like a very personality-filled song for every character, because we just didn't even know that much about the characters. So they just kind of had to default to some generic songs. They weren't that appealing at all, and it didn't really tell us more about the characters at all. But in Yuri on Ice, when we saw like that one Thai skater or whatever, when he skated, we like learned more about him as a person, because it's like, oh, he picked this song. We know what kind of person would pick this song, and we saw his moves and his emotion, and the animation in that show was just good at doing that. I don't really know. I mean, the show is still good overall. I would still recommend it to people to watch it if they're into Shinichiro Watanabe and that kind of like futuristic world building type stuff, because I do feel the world is pretty well fleshed out. We do know more about the world than we have any right to, given that this is a music show set in this kind of like future fantasy world, which is kind of based on real life, but not really. They've extrapolated to some extent, but they haven't taken like quantum leaps on what things will happen. They're just looking at current trends in this day and age and like going to 2030 or whatever. It's not too far out in the future that we feel like we don't relate at all. But at the end of the day, like if episode 13 does come out next week, I'm still going to cover it because the show's still, I'm like already 12 episodes in. I might as well just watch the end of the show. This is like the definition of like a slightly above average show to me. Like it does the things that it does well, but it could do so much more. And it's just a disappointment to me that after so long of a break, Shinichiro Watanabe comes back with this, because Space Dandy is like one of my all-time favorite shows. And the vibe is pretty similar, but in that show it felt like the comedy was more cutting, and the dynamic between the characters was more back and forth and just more like lively. It had more life to it. This feels somewhat deflated to me. And I'd be curious to why he made this in the first place. You could probably look up interviews to find out why that is the case. And if I make a video about the show after it's all done, maybe I'll do that. I'm curious to just see what inspired him to make this. It seems like he makes a lot of music references like he always does, but they don't seem to have any particular meaning in the show, and I'm not the most knowledgeable about music, but the few songs of the episode titles that I have known don't really link thematically to the subject matter of the episode, so I can't see how the other ones would. Just confused at the end of the day. Just when you see a show that's trying so hard to do a lot of things and kind of falling on its face flat with a few things and then doing other things well, you kind of want it to nail everything perfectly and want it to get like a perfect 10 out of 10, but we know that can't happen with every single show. That's just the way that it is. That's why I probably talk more about this show than other shows that are just good, because it feels like when there's a little bit of good and a little bit of bad, there's more to talk about. So that's it for this week. Probably next week, if episode 13 comes out, I'll be covering that as well as the new summer season that's starting pretty soon. I haven't decided what shows I'm going to cover in that season yet, but probably a few of the mainstream titles that have already been getting promotion. I will be covering those. So stay tuned to the channel for that. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next week.